This is a huge undertaking when you talk about social distancing and taking people's health into consideration. And certainly I've heard from a number of our students, employees, and the public who um, have varying degrees of opinions on how we should be operating. And my response is the same every time, and I'll take the criticism. But every time I say, what, we've got nearly 1,000 employees when you include our adjuncts, and nearly 18,000 students. That's not something I take lightly, folks, in terms of putting people in harm's way. And by harm's way, I mean it's very clear. The county, the state, and even the federal government says that the best thing to do is just to stay in your immediate space, to not, well, to lower the likelihood of contacting the virus. There are other colleges doing other things, and there are other districts doing other things, but all it takes is one person to infect hundreds, if not thousands. And so um, I don't even want to pretend to be a health professional. I rely on the same information we're going to get from Dottie right now, and that are coming from others, that are respected health professionals. And so with that said, it looks like, Caesar, we could move on to Dottie and turn the floor over to Dottie.
Yep, we're good now.
Okay.
Please continue. Thank you.
So Dottie, the floor is yours. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Ricky. I forget the time frame, about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
But if you would take questions, that may prolong things as well.
Okay. I wanted to get a general sense from everyone if you're still finding the communications to the campus via the DL to be helpful. I try to curate those very rigorously so that I'm not just filling your inbox. I try to wait until something significant has changed or has moved along. Hence the messaging on masking or facial coverings. And then just hearing a lot of us using the terms isolation and quarantine kind of synonymously. I tried to clarify that. But one of the big announcements I would like to make is just to try to drum up business via you all, and to let you know that Mental Health Counseling Center is up and doing telecounseling sessions, and that the Student Health Center with our nurse practitioners, nurses, and our physician have a COVID-19 protocol. And we are doing right now, at this point, a nurse advice line, but we'll be moving to telemedicine. Luckily we are, yay Denise, luckily we are, we have an electronic medical record that we are able to securely chart and get into students' records, even though we're not able to physically go into the clinic. And so I'm very grateful for that. But any way that I can plug us, or that Leslie can, we would like to do that. For the professors that are here on this Zoom, if you would like us to do a class talk via Zoom or whatever in your classes, I know that all of us, I think, I'm speaking for me, just me alone right now, I think we all probably need some kind of health care as we isolate and distance more and more from one another. You mentioned, Ricky, and Denise will speak more to it, but we're going to have that laptop distribution with Marciano Perez and other folks on Friday. And so grateful for those donated laptops. Some of the nurses, including myself, will be there sort of to help keep eyes on, to ensure the line moves and everything, and then to ensure that people don't get too close to one another, or if someone should accidentally get contaminated, or that we feel that they need to change their gloves or mask, that we would be there to try to guide them. We are trying not to medicalize this process, and that was after a lot of consultation with our physician, Dr. Carroll. We're doing it as safely as the market and even more so. But we're trying not to make it be like an ICU patient. And so we'll be very, very careful with the distribution of the laptops. And I feel confident that we've got the equipment and everything that we need to distribute those outside the LRC. One other thing, I wanted to speak to personal protective equipment, the masks, the fact that a mask can be a facial covering out in public. But I wanted to know from the group if you would find it helpful to have me talk about contamination, or if I'm able to share my screen, Caesar. I have a little video on gloves that's 30 seconds long. Am I able to share that?
Yep,
Sure.
go ahead and you should see the button there, share screen, and you should be able to select what.
Okay, let me pull up the video that I. Okay. It says that the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, try it now, Dottie.
Okay. Can you see it? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Your sound may be off on the YouTube.
Oh, you can't hear the sound?
No, go back and put the sound on.
And another option too, if you want to share the link, you could copy the link and share that into the chat.
Okay, I will do that. Basically, she had very dirty gloves on, and what I wanted to try to convey to people, whether you're at the supermarket or anywhere, is think of your gloves as covered in some sort of black tar or whatever. So when you've got your gloves on, just like your regular hands, you don't want to be touching your face. What she was doing was showing how to take the glove off with her first hand and then wad it up into a ball and then get it so that you've taken both gloves off without touching the outside. And I watched the CDC one. It got real scary looking because they were all gowned up like in Ebola PPE. And this one is just real to the point, and it will give you an idea of the concept of clean and dirty. The outside of your gloves are dirty. The inside where your hands were is considered clean. But then after you take off your gloves, you want to be washing your hands, of course. And in the supermarket and everywhere I go, I see people wearing their masks. I saw somebody drop it below their mouth and then start chewing on the top of it. So we need to be very careful that, again, the outside of your mask would be considered dirty, that it is outside having people breathe and exhale on it. So that is not something you want to touch a great deal. You want to try to take off the mask and take it to your, if it's a cloth one, to take it to your washing machine or dispose of it in a trash can. And again, I will send the links for these videos and for the two things from CDC that is called How to Don and Doff Your Personal Protective Equipment. It's going to give you guys more than you want, but at least it will give you the principles of clean versus dirty. And I think it's good for your heads to kind of just think of clean versus dirty as instead of contaminated. Contaminated is just too complicated when you're out there in the world. Just think about what's clean and what's dirty based on what you're touching. So if you're in the supermarket and you've got your gloves on, as soon as you start touching things in the market or the cash register at the checkout and the buttons, either your hands or your gloves are dirty, and you need to make sure that you clean your hands as soon as you exit the supermarket before you start touching your steering wheel and such. One other thing that's come up just in the last 24 hours, I think, we are all now very comfortable, I think. Not comfortable, that's the wrong word. We are getting accustomed to this social distancing. So we're sheltered in place, and then when we go out for one essential outing every couple days or once a week, we social distance ourselves by 6 feet from other people. All the news outlets today are covering the fact that there has been an article, seems to be peer-reviewed, legitimate literature on the CDC website that was done in Wuhan, China, from February 19th to March 2nd, in which they tested all sorts of surfaces and areas in the hospital ward and in the ICU. And their conclusions were that they believe that this organism can spread up to 13 feet. I will give the link to this article too. I don't want to alarm anybody because, again, the CDC is still saying 6 feet, but they are talking about culturing surfaces and air vents in an ICU with a very ill intubated COVID-19 patient. That is not what you're going to encounter for the most part as you walk about your day on an essential errand. So they gave some caveats at the end of the article, sort of saying more to be determined. It's also the same article, you guys, that was talking about the fact that this organism is being cultured off healthcare providers' shoes, which shouldn't be surprising. But right now, CDC is still saying 6 feet. How will I implement that in my personal life? I'm going to allow as much distance as I can between.
You're muted, Jody.
Am I unmuted?
You are now.
You are now.
How long have I been muted?
Just a couple seconds.
Okay,
We heard just about everything.
Okay, yeah, so just, I don't believe that it is scientifically borne out that we need to have 13 feet yet, but how I would take that as a critical thinker individual is maintain as much distance as you can. There's a lot more to be learned about this virus. But for right now, today, CDC is still saying 6 feet, but they're doing a lot of research.
Great. Can we open it up to a couple questions to see if folks from the College Council have any questions for you, Dottie? You're muted again, Dottie.
Okay, I talked him into coma, Ricky.
Any questions from members of College Council to Dottie?
I just want to tell Dottie that I'm excited about the potential work that can be done, spreading the word of student health on our campus, the possibility of speaking even in classes. I know she's open to classes just to raise health awareness throughout our campus community during this very difficult time. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that we're doing all these efforts to communicate to the greater campus community implications of our behaviors.
Great. Tilly?
And I just wanted to say, Dottie, to your question initially, thank you for the communications. And I think they're fine. Please keep bringing them. I even look to them as a fellow nurse to say, what have I missed? And what is she on top of this time that I've missed somewhere else? So I think it's wonderful to keep having those.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And I just do want to give props again to Dr. Wooten, as I did last night in the email. She is reminding us as we're doing literature searches and going through both the mental and the medical health literature, that what we are all undergoing right now is traumatic. This is a traumatic event to weather through a pandemic like this. So She's giving us literature research sources about a lot of different things that I'm gonna send out to folks in a couple days.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Any other questions for Dottie? Comments? Well, I have a question, Dottie. For those that are listening via YouTube Live and College Council, you know, I've received a number of emails for people who have various degrees of understanding and comfort with the way the college is responding to this matter. We know that there are colleges that are having employees come in and make masks and do things like we're doing, going to do with the laptops. As a health professional, like how easy is it for someone to plan something like that with a virus during a pandemic? Like what are your thoughts in terms of the planning that the public who may be watching the news are questioning whether or not this is real or whether or not we've gone through lengths that others don't think we should. What is your professional advice for folks who are having questions whether or not we're doing the right thing by having people shelter in place?
I was reviewing the talk that Tilly and I gave before the campus closed, and it seems like that was done years ago. I still feel the same as what was said that day, that for those that think this is an overreaction, I don't believe that's accurate. I know that there's a lot of misinformation out there. It's hard for people to know what to believe. I heard a Johns Hopkins epidemiologist say that we might have some version of what we're doing right now up until 2022. That's a very bitter pill to swallow, and I'm not saying that that is the word, but if we open, whether it's the school, the county, the state, the nation, prematurely, we can lose the ground that we've had, that we've gained, in flattening the curve and diminishing the number of cases and deaths. And if I had any leadership that I would have, small or large, I would err on the side of caution for people's lives and families. And so I'm proud of our district, our public health officer in San Diego, our governor, and I'm also guided, Ricky, by what California community colleges had to say, that we need to stay away. We need to stay away from work. We need to stay home. And the only thing that we are coming to campus for is to further the essential functions of the college, which is to get a computer into students' hands to be able to persist and be retained in college. So this is an exceptional thing that we're doing on Friday, but in all other instances, we need to stay home. Dr. Wootens was stay home and stay the course. And it's not going to be a pleasant course perhaps, but I'm really grateful that you all are doing what you're doing. If that answers your question.
It does, and it really speaks to how important it is to get those updates from you, because there's some level of alignment as it relates to research that the college is doing the right thing as being reported and requested by other health professionals, and frankly, many of us either listening on YouTube Live and/or on College Council have to rely on the health community to guide us to the best approach to protecting the health and well-being of not only our students, but our employees and our community. And that's something as leaders that frankly, we'll deal with the criticism after this is over, but none of us can live with the notion of putting anyone in harm's way because we made a rush to judgment or decision to bring people back or allow people into spaces. And I was also sharing something that a lot of people don't realize is that a campus of our size at any given time is cleaned by 4 or maintained by 4 to 8 people, right? And so those folks sanitize every one of these spaces. You know, I've walked through the campus and you see signs on doors that says this office has been sanitized. Well, if people go into those spaces, the human capital necessary to come back and clean and sanitize those spaces not only puts those employees at risk, it puts a strain on already depleted cleaning supplies that folks, I don't know the last time someone tried to buy some bleach in a store or something, but I haven't seen bleach on the cabinet or on the counter or in the grocery store for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And let me also conclude by saying that Dottie, you've been on the forefront of raising an opportunity for us to donate PPE to our local health professionals who are in need of these supplies. And I know that Tilly's going to be reaching out to UND to execute some donation, some level of donation. Now, we also realize we need to keep some PPE on campus for things like what we're going to do with the laptop distribution and the facilities folks who are maintaining our spaces. But I appreciate your leadership in that area, and it is the right thing to do. And I'm hoping by sometime next week, we can deliver some of these things that are very much needed to our colleagues in our clinical locations to support our healthcare workers who are in fact putting themselves and their families in harm's way during this pandemic. So thank you for that leadership. I just wanted to give that to you because I know you raised that concern, and we hear you, and I think we are ready, we are ready to move forward with a donation of whatever we can afford to donate. And so Tilly's going to be reaching out to you and Dee to have Dee Armstrong to have a conversation about how we do that. So thank you again.
Thank you to the senior leadership team. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, great. We'll move on to the next agenda. We do have a number of things. Thank you, Dottie, again for coming in. Let me share the agenda. I believe this is the agenda. Yes. That is not the agenda. That is the agenda. I'm sorry. So in terms of number 4, re-examining leadership during this matter, I'm going to turn the floor over to Denise to tackle or provide an update on financial aid and scholarships. We got a lot of innovative things going on in that area. So Denise, you want to provide an update, and maybe Roxanne will jump in as well in terms of our approaches to financial aid and scholarships in response to planning for the coronavirus. You're muted. Denise, you're muted.
Thank you, Ricky. The campus is doing a lot to get resources in the hands of our students, our financial aid office, and I really want to do a special thank you to the Administrative Services Office, which has done a phenomenal job of making sure whenever possible that they get the checks in the hands of students. And Roxanne, you can talk more about it, but when I look at how they've been calling students and keeping a caseload for them to provide a space where they can get their checks, I mean, that is phenomenal, and not aligning so much with every of our campus, of our sister campuses. And that's kind of the way that we do it at City. So I really want to thank them there. Then there's just a lot of work that's happening in financial aid, as we know that there are some additional resources that will be coming to the campus as a way, via the stimulus bill. So financial aid is engaged in the planning in some part with district efforts to identify how we will be providing those direct $8, which 50% of the stimulus dollars will be provided to students. There's some things that are happening in financial aid that we're very happy. Recognizing statewide, there's probably more flexibility in regards to financial aid in terms of how things are looked at, but from a federal perspective, not quite as flexible, but moving, we think optimistically more in that direction. You'll see that there are things such as the work that's happening with work studies, the fact that they are continued to be paid on. I want to give a particular thank you to the innovative practices of our president, who convened a group of leadership throughout the district last week in terms of the executive team to kind of figure out how can we best get resources for our students in their hands in regards to financial aid. So there's just a lot of work. Financial aid is very busy. And to that end too, I know that I have asked, we have convened a convening group whereby it looks at some of the stimulus policies and does that coupled with the work that's been done with financial aid as how best we can strategize to provide resources for our students. So I want to extend a particular thank you to Academic Senate. As I know, I've made that request. So as soon as you want to give us someone, that would be greatly appreciated, because the work we're already beginning, because the money showed up and Betsy DeVos told us spend the money. So we're trying to figure out how to do that, recognizing that some of those resources will be on our campus beyond a year. And then in regards to scholarship money, I will just say that, again, particular thanks to the things that are happening with our Vice President of Administrative Services, also the Dean of Student Affairs in his office, to make sure that we get scholarships checks out to students earlier than we had actually in the history of the college. So there's some great work that's been done there. And I would be remiss to not say that Ricky has played a critical role in kind of pushing that agenda forward for our campus, recognizing whom we serve.
Thank you, Denise. And, kudos to Denise and Marciano and their respective teams in those areas. And Roxanne and Administrative Services jumped right in to partner with them. And I'm gonna let Roxanne, I don't want to steal the thunder. So Roxanne, you want to just provide an update in terms of what strategy we were able to implement for the first time with these scholarship checks?
Okay, in regards to the scholarship checks, we are going to send payments to students via PayPal. So they will not need to come to campus to pick up a check, nor would they need to wait for a check to be mailed to them. So we have a list of students that I was provided already that will be our first 35 that will receive scholarship payments this week. The additional list will be provided tomorrow and Friday. So hopefully by the end of next week, everyone should have their scholarship payments via electronic payment.
And, again, Roxanne is very humble, but without her leadership, many students could face not getting that check because they don't have an address, or the mailroom is only coming once or twice a week. There's some major complications with actually mailing a physical check, and Roxanne problem solved this and partnered with Marciano and Sylvia in the scholarships office. And while, we could debate whether or not PayPal is the best way to do this, what is not debatable is having a check sit on campus that a student can't get because they're being required to shelter in place. And so thank you, Roxanne. And I'm happy to report that meeting that Denise spoke about, the positive thing that's going to come out of this very tragic matter is a fast track to have more electronic solutions for students to access their financial aid. And so that'll be coming hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Food pantry and other basic needs. So we're on number 4 of the agenda. We've had to stop our food distribution.
Dr. Shabazz?
Please, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I had a hand up, but I know it's difficult to follow that, as I learned quickly yesterday when I was leading a meeting. So Denise, with your request to have faculty appointed to it, in the last meeting that we had, I was a little bit confused. So is it it's not a committee request, or so are you asking us just to appoint somebody to come on, and then there's some, and then does that, could you just clarify exactly what the request is, I guess?
Yes, this is not a formal committee. As Ricky has said, this is not a task force. This is just to ensure that we have active participation and engagement from our faculty. We also have classified that are a part of it. just to hear folks' input as we move it forward. So that's where we are. Ricky, if you want to expound a little bit more, that's the vision of what the convening is.
Yeah, so it's in the spirit of participatory governance and shared governance that we want to make sure that we afford the faculty or leadership an opportunity to work alongside financial aid, because a lot of this is about financial aid processing. But what an amazing opportunity for our faculty who may not know the in and outs of the CARES Act or the financial aid process to be afforded the opportunity to work alongside the leadership and give that faculty lens to whatever discussion decisions we're making with these funds.
Okay, so I think we would need to get a request for a call out, so we could send a call out to, and then appoint somebody, and then have a clear kind of name that it's not a committee, but it's something else, so people have.
So I've submitted the request in your process already, but I can, if you want, like, I guess I could try to modify it or something.
No, if you already submitted it, cool. I'll follow up with the secretary and make sure that that's going through. I don't even see the things when they're voted on, but I haven't seen it go out yet, so I'll just follow up. Everybody has so much on their plate, but okay, cool. That's what I was asking.
And so the challenge that we're in, I said, Betsy DeVos said, let's spend the money quick, is that we have to make decisions pretty darn quick. And so if there's any way that you can facilitate quick movement, we have to start making decisions as early, some things as early as next week we're going to be moving into, which is not our traditional way of making decisions. And we respect that process, but I'm just saying, like, that's kind of what that's what we have to do, is move things just really quickly.
Okay, and let me give an example for everyone listening, because while we're appreciative that the federal government afforded us these resources, the fact of the matter, if you just did some simple math using 16,000 students, our allocation after we support our colleagues at continuing education is going to be about 1.6 million. It's a little bit more than 1.6 million. Very simple math, 1.6 divided by about 16,000 yields about $103 per student. And so this group of folks are going to be working to identify ways to get the most needy student, veterans, foster youth, someone being evicted, whatever the case may be, a broader access to these resources than if we just simply did math and everybody got the same amount. Well, not everyone's going through, right? That's the difference between equality and equity. And so us having social justice at our core, we want an equitable approach to distributing these funds where someone may not get anything and someone may get $1,000 because maybe that's the difference from them staying in their apartment for another month or being evicted. And so this group is going to work on how to approach this. I'll also say that initially we thought we were going to put this money in different buckets, but having seen a couple of surveys of students in terms of what their needs are, and having gone through this laptop program that we're going to describe later, I think it's easier to just issue a student a check based on an application and an analysis and the best case scenario, and then allow that student to decide if they want to use that money to buy a laptop or pay their rent or buy food or whatever the case may be. It's actually easier for us to do that, having seen the planning. And, bless Denise and Roxanne and Marciano and everybody involved with this laptop distribution. I wouldn't want to have to do this 2 or 3 times, just in terms of the health concerns that we have with bringing people to campus and then sanitizing the laptops, making sure the laptops work. I'll stop there. You're going to hear more about that. But Paul, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? And we're going to hear more about the laptops in a little bit. Yeah, the next item wasn't meant to be on the agenda. The laptop and Wi-Fi distribution. Denise, do you want to talk about that?
Can someone undo the screen share so that I can use the screen share I have? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so back in March, we recognized the need to, as best we can, provide laptops to our students. And, the challenge of providing laptops for 18,000 students or students who are in need is a difficult one at City because we know that so many students are in need. And so we quickly mobilized to identify resources as well as to move implementation forward. And so I would be remiss to not give particular thanks to our president and his vision and leadership, as well as our Vice President of Administrative Services, Roxanne, as well as our Dean of Institutional Technology in the Library of the LRC, Rob Ewell, as well as our Dean of Student Affairs, Marciano, and of course, our Vice President of Instruction, Tilly Chavez. And I'm sure I'm missing people, so folks feel free to chime in, but this committee has met to do our best effort. And so with that, we were given some $60,000 through our foundation and a generous donation from a private donor of some $100,000 to provide laptops. We recognized very early into the process that for our students, many students have laptops, but darn it, they don't have the hotspot or the way to make the laptop, become a true laptop or have some level of connectivity. So back in around March 31st, we began, I think at that point we kind of finalized our research on laptops in the process, and the donation was solidified. And then an initial plan was presented to Executive Cabinet so that we could move as quickly as possible because we know the needs of our students. We did this coupled with our need, the reality of the uncertainty of what was going on in the world in the terms of the surges and the ticks in terms of COVID. So from that point around April 2nd, our selection process, we spent a lot of time actually trying to figure out the selection process. It was very clear that we needed to give this to the neediest of our students because we recognized that we weren't going to have 18,000 laptops. And so we now have 500 laptops to distribute to needy students. And I shouldn't say needy because I don't want to say it to students who are in need. And so the selection process is one by which we looked at those students who were Pell eligible, and in the spirit of supporting students who completed, who are completing or on a track to completion, we did as best as we possibly could to give students who have a requisite number of units, which I think in the end ended up to be, and don't quote me, something like 15 or more units, weighing that and the student and the number of laptops that we had. So we would like to give them to all students. And I know some students are like, why can't? The bottom line is we didn't want to find ourselves doing something other than what the federal guidelines delineated, and is that by which we give resources to students who are most in need. As the feds decide who gets resources, we relied on some of their wisdom in discerning, and those students who are Pell recipients are those students who we felt would be key in this process, as well as students who have completed their education plans. We purchased the laptops, did lots of research. Vice President Roxanne Solis has done an extensive amount of research. And then around April 10th, the laptops arrived, and they arrived with, and we've gotten some hotspots. We've done a lot of research to make sure that they are refurbished laptops to maximize the resources that we could provide, and also to have some level of warranty and support usage during this time of transition, because we know we didn't have the capacity to have someone be there for every laptop's correction situation. So they cost a little bit more because we wanted the students to have support. And then we've done some work around that time too. And really special thanks to Dean Yule and the IT team in the sense of really looking at the quality control, the choice of laptops and that sort of thing. And they're going through all the laptops right now and actually cleaning. The cleaning process is underway as well. We emailed to targeted students yesterday to invite them to apply and receive a refurbished laptop loaner. This is a loan program, so upon the completion of this loan, it will be again in the hands of the college so that we continue to provide laptops. So it has an enduring quality to it, and we're really excited about that. And these resources will be shepherded under the leadership of our dean or Dean Yule, I should say. So they have to turn in the application by Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but it might be 8 a.m. That was off the top of my head, so I just want to be clear. So if you've gotten a letter, it was sent to targeted students, you must pay attention to the time that is delineated in the letter. And probably by the end of this, I'm going to get the time to correct to make sure. Volunteers, the good work of our Dean of Student Affairs, volunteers have been solicited and are being solicited. And we've done some, and we really are just looking for folks who are ready to just, roll up their sleeves and help that day. And so there's some good work that's happening. I think Dottie alluded it too in terms of our preparation to make sure that we have PPE for the folks that are going to be a part of it. Let's see.
So Denise, we're kind of wrapping up on the time.
Okay. So the students have been notified, and we plan to do the distribution on campus on Friday.
And Denise mentioned that, let me just clarify a couple of things, because one, Denise and her team did an amazing job, as did Roxanne Administrative Services, Caesar. These are team efforts to, in a week and a half, secure 500 laptops, secure the funds. Thank you, Denise, for being able to call the personal phone number of Jim Senegal, the co-founder of Costco. I mean, there's so many people who went to work to make sure that our students had resources. This was a huge undertaking. And as Denise said, 18,000 students, 500 laptops. These are going to be some very tough decisions moving forward. Volunteers are not needed. We already have the volunteers. So let me say, because this is being broadcast live, this is not an invitation to come to campus other than those who have been working with Marciano, Denise, Roxanne, and the team that is planning this. We have enough volunteers, but what I wanted to do is extend an invitation to those members on College Council. So if you wanted to help, and we mean literally help, because the people who are there are going to be exercising social distance. This is not an invite to come in and just check out what we're doing. But if you actually want to help, you could email Marciano and let him know that you're available. But the message is really, this is not business as usual. This is not an opportunity to gather. We're exercising social distance and taking everyone's health and safety at the core of what we are doing. And so for those of you who are watching, please do not come to campus on this day unless you are one of the students who have been notified that you're getting a laptop, or unless you are already one of the volunteers that has been working with Marciano. Let me open it up to questions. Denise, can we stop sharing the screen, please?
Yes, yes, I can.
Questions for anybody on the line in terms of how this is going to work?
I do have a question, Chair.
Please.
So how will you be distributing the computers in terms of social distancing? Will you be distributing them on the sidewalk and keeping a distance between the students? I just want to know what students.
I can answer that.
Thanks, Roxanne.
Hi. So we did a walkthrough this morning with campus police and other members of the team. There is going to be a walk-up area that is going to be staged in front of the stairs near the LRC. And then there's going to be a drive-through space on the other side near the Seville. We are using 2 rows of 6-foot tables to separate the person handing the laptop over to the student. We're also putting blue tape on the ground where if there are students lined up, they will line up on the blue tape that is separated 6 feet apart. In addition to that, the drive-through or the drive up area, there will be cones kind of directing the traffic to a certain area. We are requesting that you show the student's name and the ID through, you can have the window rolled up and you could just show it through your window. We're asking to pop the trunk, drop the laptop in the trunk, and then they exit out the other driveway. Does that make sense?
Well, in the event that you want more details, Marciano, again, is working on typing all of this up, and we'll email it out to both the students who are going to receive a laptop and college counsel so that you have this in writing. But I commend Roxanne and everyone involved in this. You have great health professionals like Dottie and others who have chimed in on the health side of this. And so we're making every effort to take those things into consideration and ensure that people have PPE and that this is not a social gathering, that this is an essential function to ensure that our students have access to the technology. I would also say, because I've seen a couple of students share the information on Facebook and social media, that I would ask that those who have done that not do that, because if we open this up to all 18,000 students, then it's going to take weeks to go through to see who the actual students who were determined. And I know Denise said Pell Grant, but I'm almost positive that our undocumented students that qualify for the California DREAM Act were included in that group. And so, again, you've got 500 people buying, nearly 18,000 students buying for 500 laptops, and it's unfortunate, but I'll use this as an example to say, or an opportunity to say that I'm happy to report that just in less than 24 hours, we've already raised an additional $3,000. And so I sent an email out to the campus with an opportunity to donate. And I would encourage if everyone would be willing to share that document that I sent out, and I'm gonna share right now. And again, kudos to our team that came up with this, Denise, Caesar, Roxanne, and others, the City College Cares. And this doesn't say that we have these dollars. These are the goals that we're trying to raise. So we raised pretty close to 200,000 for computers. I think that number was around 160. Our goal is to raise another $50,000 to begin disseminating or offering resiliency fund grants for these areas. And you all should have received this document in an email so you can look it over. But these are the funds we're trying to raise because our students have, they have very real needs. And so if you haven't donated and you have the ability to donate, and even if you can't donate, if you could just share the YouTube video, if you could share this document with your networks, folks, we raised $3,000 in less than 24 hours. There are people who already give out of the kindness of their hearts to our students, whether it's payroll deduction or otherwise. And so we need your help in sharing this information. Any other questions about the laptops? Denise, anything, or Roxanne, or Caesar, anything you all want to share about the laptops that we didn't?
I just really excited that we're getting a chance to really contribute on some level to the campus. So it's just exciting.
Great. And so again, if you want to help, let me not say if you want to help, if those who are on College Counsel want to help and you're not already signed up as a volunteer, you can email Marciano and let him know. For those that are watching via the YouTube channel, this is not an invitation to come to campus. Please don't come to campus. It will complicate things even more. The students who were invited to fill out the form were emailed directly. So if you're not one of those students, We're working to try to raise funds to buy additional laptops to reach more students. But in the meantime, we've got 500 that will be distributed on Friday. Hearing no other questions. Grading, there's a lot of conversations about grading. We're working to see the impacts of an incomplete or in progress and the like. We are seeing an increased number of students who are dropping as a result of this. I'm happy to report, as we already emailed, that this is not going to impact them negatively as it relates to transfer or financial aid. It may impact them in other ways, so we're still trying to figure this out. And let me recap, actually retract what I said. It may impact their transfer if they drop a class. It's not going to negatively impact their satisfactory academic progress, and/or it's not going to negatively impact their financial aid. It may in fact impact their ability to transfer if they drop a class. So we're still working through that with our transfer center director, our articulation coordinator, and the UCs and CSUs to talk about the impact of this. Any questions on the grading piece? The employment engagement, kind of Dottie talked on this a little bit as we talk about isolation. I mean, folks are facing some real challenges as it relates to isolation. So simply put, just, check in on your colleagues, send them an email, give them a phone call. Just because we're supposed to shelter in place doesn't mean we can't be sociable toward one another. I've met more people in my neighborhood exercising social distancing than I have when I'm working long hours on the campus. And I try to get out with the family and at least walk down the block and seeing neighbors smiling. And so there are some good things that are coming out of this pandemic. I've been cooking a lot more than I ever have had a chance to cook at home. Matter of fact, I just went out and fired up the barbecue because I'm going to be cooking some meals tonight. So trying to get that going. But check in on your colleagues, see how they're doing. They would be happy to hear from you. Let's not isolate from one another. Anybody want to chime in on that or questions about that? Okay, update on spring planning. You all know that we're working remotely. Many questions about when are we going to return to the campus. Again, Dottie alluded to, there are some individuals in the health community that are saying this could last as long as 18 months. I don't think any of us has a crystal ball to look into that. I'd like to think we're going to return as soon as possible. I know the governor had a press release or a press conference today. I didn't get a chance to be on it. We are planning to return to campus. That is our goal. We have no desire. Let me go ahead and say it. We have no desire to be an online college, folks. That is not our desire. Many of us are going crazy being at home. We enjoy one another. We love our campus. And so this is not the best case scenario. This is an emergency. This is a pandemic. And the soonest we can return to campus safely, rest assured we're going to do that. With that said, some folks are becoming comfortable with teaching online, and they should be encouraged to do so. I would have never thought we would be live broadcasting our college council meetings via YouTube and that sort of thing. So, I'm appreciating the innovation as well as appreciating people want to get back to campus. Any comments on that? I know that continues to come up, and we'll continue to state that there's no desire for City College to be an online college. The state tried that and it didn't work.
Ricky?
Yes.
I just have a question. Are you expecting any sort of media on Friday?
Denise or Roxanne?
Caesar is working on media. Caesar, do you want to maybe chime in on terms of our scope and approach? So okay, Caesar.
Could you go say that again, Denise? Sorry.
Media, like what are we expecting any media?
Yeah, so I sent out a press release on earlier this weekend. We have some inquiries from Fox 5 and KUSI. And so they may be heading down there on Friday. And I also just informed them about, we're still practicing social distancing and making sure, folks are still staying safe if they do decide to come by on campus on Friday.
Does that answer your question, Majda? Or at least I thought that was Majda. You may be on mute.
Yeah, I think so. It is Majda, I think.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? We know that Marciano, well, committee meetings are beginning to meet remotely. Susan, do you want to maybe chime in with the email you sent the campus offering support to committees?
Sure. We have an email out to all of the current committee and governance group chairs that we believe we identified in the survey that we did last year for our IEPI project, asking whether people need additional resources, additional support, additional professional development to help them conduct meetings in a remote environment. We're gathering some information on practices and online, help tools, and finding a place to gather all of that together online so that it can be accessible. And we hope to roll that out next week. And then we'll be following up with individuals about addressing any specific needs that they have.
Great. Any questions for Susan? ASG elections. Oscar, let me give you the floor. I know that there's a lot of information been sent out on social media. We sent an email to the entire campus. You mind providing an update on what's going on with ASG elections?
Yeah. So hi everyone. Again, my name is Oscar, and currently the Associated Student Government has 18 total voting members on the board of directors, and there's 24 positions total on the board. Many of the students currently serving are transferring or they're graduating from San Diego City College, and other students.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They will be running for a position on the board, and elections are a crucial determinant of what students will be representing the interests and funds of the associated students. Our top goal for the next 5 weeks is to approve the annual budget for the next academic school year. And the campus community will have a chance to learn about financial procedures and the Associated Student Government through the financial clerk. Heroku will be at our next board meeting to help give more information on that and to help prepare the students who are looking to run next semester, so they can also give that information to students who are interested in running and helping them engage in the process of running for elections. Of course, in the email sent out, if you go to our webpage directly, you can find the election packets for students to apply for. And also, if I'm not sure if everyone's also had a chance to look at the deadlines for when those packets are to be submitted. So on Friday, April 17th, that's when election packets are due, and eligibility will be confirmed on April 22nd. ASG election results will be posted on May 26th, and that's when we will have the official name of who will be sitting as a representatives for the governing board, and then hopefully we can give you guys an introduction of who will be the member that will be sitting here on College Council as well. And it's been an honor serving and listening and learning through the experiences here with you guys, and I hope that hopefully when we transition back onto campus, if it's possible next year, that we will continue to build better relationships. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Oscar. And on behalf of the student government, I would encourage all of those listening and/or on College Council to encourage students to run, to encourage students to vote. And there was information sent out to the entire campus via Marciano Dean Marciano Perez, Dean of Student Affairs. Let me go back real quick to the chat. There's a couple of questions that came up that I think are warranted to responding to. Thank you, Caesar. These are from YouTube questions. The name of the committee that isn't really a committee that's working on the stimulus funding. The funding is really distributed through financial aid. And so what we're doing is partnering with the Academic Senate to assign a faculty member to work alongside Denise and her team, Marciano and their team in financial aid, so that they can provide input and also gain valuable knowledge about how financial aid works. So it's not a committee. We're going through the Academic Senate's process to identify a faculty member. So the way it works is the Academic Senate sends out an email. We submit a request to the Academic Senate. The Senate sends out an email to their body, and then whoever's interested gets assigned. And in this case, probably going to get referred to either Marciano or Denise. The second thing had to do with computers and how are we partnering to stretch the dollars. Let me say again, Roxanne and her team researched every organization offering computers now to include Computers to Kids. We received refurbished laptops at $300, which includes Wi-Fi and, correct me if I'm wrong, Roxanne, some level of tech support, or Robbie, because Robbie was involved as well. Somebody want to just in 2 seconds talk about like the research was.
So I researched several different vendors. The problem is that everyone was doing this at one time, so the inventory was not available. I was able to secure 500 laptops and 500 Wi-Fi hotspots. The hotspots are brand new and the Chromebooks were refurbished, but they're in great condition. The service for the Wi-Fi hotspots is through Sprint, and we have that service for the next 6 months. It includes a 1-year warranty on the equipment and also tech support. So if a student has any issues with the Chromebook or the hotspot, they can call Sprint and they'll troubleshoot with them.
Yeah, and thank you again, Roxanne. And the challenge with going with some of the other vendors, of which the Computers to Kids was one of them, is we couldn't guarantee that the laptops were going to be in the shape necessary to access things like Canvas and some of the other things students need to do, which is very different than what a middle school student or a kid, to use the term, would do. And so very impressed that literally we received these laptops in about a week, folks. So yes, a lot of work went into that. Moving along on the agenda, Roxanne, you want to talk about year-end purchasing?
Basically, we understand the need to spend funds, and we understand that we need things for our campus. The main thing that we need, I would like to stress, is that we need the end users to work with their vendors. We have added notes on the purchase order that the vendors will receive that they need to arrange delivery with Francisco, our receiving supervisor. He's provided his cell phone number and instructions on the actual PO. So we really need the end users to do a little bit more work and to ensure that things can be delivered this year. It could be paid for this year, and that they're able to fulfill the order this year. I'm sure that people are encountering some issues with trying to order things that are not available or businesses that have shut down. It is very important that we pay for these orders or these items with this year's funds. We do not know what next year's funds look like, so it will be catastrophic for us to order things and pay for it out of next year's budget, and we don't know what that looks like right now.
Thank you. I'm going to try to move through these next couple of things pretty quickly because we need to spend at least 10 minutes talking about enrollment. I already see there's a question from YouTube about enrollment and spring and summer, and why aren't we doing what other districts are doing or colleges are doing. And I would urge those that are listening, if you have questions about scheduling and our approaches, that you first talk to your chair Second, you talk to your dean. Third, you talk to your vice president. The academic senate leadership and the college administration meet weekly, where we openly share what our targets are and our approaches are with the faculty leadership. And we are going to share a document that provides some data today. All events have been canceled for the rest of the semester. Commencement is postponed. We're looking at an option for either July, virtually, or in person. We'll have more information on that by the next College Council meeting in 2 weeks. Denise is hosting a town hall with ASG and for students on tomorrow at 11 a.m. Please encourage your students to attend that. There's information out on social media, and an email was sent out as well. We're working on an Administrative Professionals Day for April 22nd to do something special for our classified professionals who are working remotely, and we appreciate them. Now, again, this is Administrative Professionals Day. Awana and her team will plan Administrative Professionals Week, which is very different than Administrative Professional Day. Moving down the line. I think what I'm going to do is go to summer and fall planning and then come back to the state budget, because there's already a question about those things. So let me share a different screen. And Tilly, I'm going to turn the floor over to you if you could, but what I'm sharing now are what our targets are. Now, this is a draft, folks. If I could write draft on here, I would, because this is a moving target. And you may say, well, why don't you know? Well, there's a number of factors why we don't know. One, the federal government extended the tax filing period from April to the summer. That impacts our state budget, which then in turn impacts our college budget. But let me turn it over to Tilly to talk about our approaches. And folks, she literally got this information at probably 7 or 8 this morning. And so this is a hard environment to plan in because we're going through a pandemic.
Thank you, Ricky. And these numbers are, quite frankly, very generous in considering what I thought we were going to be looking at here. The big important thing is probably to look where you are in the middle of the FTEF, and that's looking at a 600 for the year. Our actual last year, we utilized 673. However, our productivity is when you basically are looking at your FTEF, FTEF, and we're supposed to be funded by the state at 17-1. And our
Can you say that one more time?
Okay, never mind. So we'll cut it back and just say our productivity is really low at 12.
I was saying, can you repeat what we're?
Oh, I thought you told me I didn't have any time.
No, I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure that people heard what the state funds the college at.
Oh, yes, sorry. So the state does fund us at 17-1 productivity. And basically, we have been granted from our district at 15.5-1. However, hold on to your hat, our average for this year has been 13.2. So there was already a deficit before. Now we just created a larger deficit in between that. So this is very generous. However, we have to hit our targets. And in order to hit that target of really, and I don't even talk about targets, I really want to talk about productivity. Yeah. We need to make sure our classes are filled. And I was just communicating with someone else at the same time that in these kind of times right now, that's kind of difficult when we are in a pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen. All kinds of things come through my mind. And like Ricky said, I haven't really had a whole lot of time to digest so much, but I'm thinking, great, first thought as a VPI is let's fill the classrooms. Let's move people to, the biggest classroom space there is. And then, there's social distancing. How does that work into here? How does that play into fact? Do we now take a classroom, these rooms that English has been in the small rooms of L building, because that's where they had designed it, can they no longer be used because they're too small and we're not going to have a class of 12? So, I mean, this is just like right now going through my head, so it's hard for me to digest and try to speak. So if I take too much, just tell me to stop.
Yeah.
But it just gives you an idea of where are we on these things and how does that work?
So let me chime in real quick, Tilly, because we're running up on 4 o'clock. You know, we have our faculty leadership on College Council, and we provided them numbers just yesterday that are about 200 or so less FTS than this. And so because of the great leadership of our chancellor, the executive team at the district, folks are making every effort to limit the impact of reducing both FTF, FTS, and productivity, and ultimately reducing the number of sections that we have to cut. And so if these numbers change again, it's because everybody's working around the clock to limit the impact ultimately on students and our adjuncts and that sort of thing. And so these are our numbers today. This is a draft. We're working through this with our other colleagues at Mesa, Miramar, and continuing education. We'll have a meeting with the faculty leadership on Thursday to go through these numbers. Certainly, Tilly will be coming up with a plan in collaboration with our chairs and deans and faculty leadership in terms of how do we distribute this across summer. Now, the question that I saw was that, why are we having summer? We will absolutely have a summer because some of our students need to complete, like our nursing students may need to attend classes in the summer to complete their requirements to sit for the exam. Our cosmetology students, I mean, there are students who were impacted by this in terms of the way we teach our courses that we owe it to them to offer some form of a summer, but we will have a reduced summer. I mean, we're looking at traditionally having a summer around 1,000 FTS. Between summer 1 and summer 2, best guess scenario is probably going to be around 600, give or take, and maybe even less than that. We will have a reduced summer, but we will have a summer because it's the right thing to do. And so this is all fresh off the press. Again, Tilly just received these numbers this morning, and we need to work through our processes to talk about how we're going to allocate FTF and FTS across summer, intersession, fall, and spring.
If I may, real quick, Ricky, is that the summer schedule has been already finalized. And one of the things that we all did was, because we didn't know where we were at that point in time, is we're really looking for distance education or online classes for the summer to also be, not sure if we were even going to be allowed to be on campus. So we're utilizing it kind of twofold. One is to provide some of that and for students that need to have classes. And then the other is, like you said, if we're allowed back on, to somewhat do complete those incompletes or suspended courses.
Yeah. Any questions about that number? I mean, we're all digesting this, folks. It's real time. Again, for the Academic Senate leadership on the line, I'll email that number out to you all. Tilly and I need to work through the distribution of that FTS and FTF across terms. Questions? Okay. That pretty much covers the summer and fall planning, other than to say that the chairs led by Nadia as the chair of chairs are absolutely planning to have fall at City College. But as we plan to have fall at City College, we also need to plan for the likelihood that the health community is telling us that this virus may resurface in some capacity November, September. None of us, unfortunately, have a crystal ball to say what's going to happen. But what we absolutely must do is plan to go remotely in the event that we're instructed to do so. And so setting up Canvas shells and other modalities is something that has to be considered as we're planning for fall semester. It would absolutely be the worst case scenario if we had to do this again, but I have to commend our great faculty, our employees of the college who were able to do so in less than 2 weeks. It's not an ideal situation, but it's to protect the health of everyone involved. Did I see a question? Okay, so that covers summer and fall. We talked about the federal stimulus. We know that 50% of the 4.9 million has to go to students directly, and we know that our non-credit colleagues at continuing education were not included in the calculation, and it's the right thing to do to help deserving students at continuing education that happen to be our largest feeder in the city college and the credit colleges. And so a certain percentage of the stimulus is going to go to continuing education because that is the right thing to do. State budget number 6, just real quick, there was an assembly letter that the assembly is not taking any new bills or new requests for funding. I talked about the May revise being moved to August because the federal filing for taxes has been extended by the federal government. The state chancellor has told us that our community college system is about $9 million short of funding. This is very, very difficult. These are emergency planning, crisis management that we're dealing with, and we are going to be facing some very difficult challenges, decisions in the immediate future, folks. None of us will know how long this is going to last, but I think the last account I saw was upwards of 17 million people filed for unemployment in the last 2 weeks. And so we know our students are impacted by this. We know our employees are impacted by this. Matter of fact, I've talked to several of our employees whose spouses or partners or family members have lost their job as a result of this. And so we're going to have less tax revenue, which is largely how our community college system is funded. Let me stop right there and just open it up to any questions and or announcements from any member of College Council. Are there any questions or announcements? You can just unmute yourself.
So I have a quick question. I just got invited to like an online session of how to help people apply for unemployment insurance. Do we have, can our careers and transfer center, do we have anybody that might be able to do something like that for students? Like, so we had like an online tutorial session to help people walk through the applying for unemployment?
I can certainly inquire. You know, our great director of the Transfer and Career Center, Dr. Bull, is very talented and happened to have worked in industry. Certainly, Denise, if you wouldn't mind seeing if Dr. Bull is able to do that, and we'll research that, Paul, and get back to you on that. That's an excellent idea.
That's a really great idea. I know we have unemployment information for students on our websites, but a workshop would be really cool. Thank you.
Other questions or announcements?
Ricky, I just wanted to say thank you. My phone is acting up. I can't even do anything with it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I could not say thank you. I'm trying to say, you know, thank you for answering my question, and I couldn't. My phone is acting up, so I'm sorry.
No worries, Maja, and thanks for being on the line and bringing that question forward. Any other questions? I'm going to end with thanking every single person on the line, and one of our great professors, Professor Meehan, in the YouTube live said it's super helpful to already have course content in Canvas. Students are struggling if they go code into Canvas, and she is absolutely right. As we are planning for summer and fall, I would highly encourage not just our faculty, but also student services is using Canvas. And the next meeting, Denise, I'd like you to highlight the discussion you had with the faculty leadership this past Thursday. We'll add that to the agenda in 2 weeks for you to talk about the great work that student services is doing in Canvas. But Professor Meehan, you're absolutely right in terms of everyone needing to be agile and flexible, because we don't know what this virus is going to do and how long it's going to last. And so anything we can do on the front end to prepare to work remotely, alternatively, everyone should absolutely be doing that. And kudos to everyone. Folks, we are 3 minutes over. I want to be respectful for the time. I promise you that the agenda will be shorter next time. There's just so many things changing in our world. We try to jam pack all of this stuff into an hour and a half, and we just never have enough time. If you have any questions, you all know how to get a hold of me via email. For those of you who are listening, if we didn't get to your question or you have an idea, start with your chair or your supervisor, go to your dean and your respective vice president. I am so proud of our college and our colleagues. You know, if you had to be going through an emergency like this, I can't think of a better group of people who are so committed to our students and our community and our campus. We've raised nearly $3,000 in less than 24 hours to help students. And so if you can give, if you have the ability to give, there's no amount too small. If 300 people all donated $1, that's one student who gets a computer. If 300 people donated $300, we can get to more students having access to this technology. With that said, thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we be safe, be well. Thank you all.
Thank you.